Hello, I'm David Burton. I live here in Greene County. I'm a resident of Republic and grew up in Ash Grove, and I work with University of Missouri Extension. I was asked to do a travelogue segment about a trip I made to Cuba. Now, I want to be sure and say up front here that my wife has visited Cuba 4 times. My daughter has been there 3 times, and I have been once, the very last time we were able to go. So they had years invested there and established relationships, and that really paved the way for what I was able to go in and do with the group. So I want to give them full credit for creating those relationships and paving the way. But Cuba is a marvelous nation. It's a nation of contrast, many unique characteristics in that nation. And I just want to say at the very front, we love the people there. We're able to stay in contact with some of them. They're, a kind and gracious and hardworking, loving people. In some areas, some ways, we could probably learn a few things from them. So I will include some photos of the people toward the end, because that was such an important part to us. Well, we landed in Santiago, and this is a picture from there. That white tower is actually a water tower. Santiago is the second largest city in Cuba, about 500,000 population. El Caney was our principal town of where we worked, and that's 6 miles northwest of Santiago, located on the southern tip of Cuba. Santiago does have a port and is a port city into the Caribbean, whereas El Caney, I think, would probably be described as pretty third world in terms of conveniences and what's available there. They have been hit by some hurricanes, and that has, causes ongoing challenges for them too. But it's hot, it's sunny, and it's certainly Caribbean. Well, I get asked a lot of questions when people find out I've been to Cuba, because it's been 70 years since Americans could freely travel to Cuba. There was a window of opportunity there for some humanitarian travel opportunities. One of the first questions I get asked is about the Cuban Revolution. Are there still signs of the revolution? The answer is yes. Everywhere you look, there are signs of the revolution. Should you forget, there are plenty of billboards reminding you of the revolution and what has taken place and who was involved and other nations that they've partnered with for the revolution. Billboards far and wide, city and urban areas reminding you of the revolution. So yes, it is very much alive in Cuba. The second thing I get asked about are the classic cars. Are there 1950s classic cars just everywhere you look? Well, not everywhere. It is expensive to keep up a car like that, and there is more to transportation in Cuba than just classic cars. But you will find them, especially in Santiago or some of the bigger cities where people might have a little more money and resources to have fixed these up. Many times they're used as taxi cabs or other cars of service. This one's sure polished up on the outside, bright blue. This is a 57 Chevy that came by us, a beautiful vehicle on the outside. Here we had a whole parade of some classic cars coming down the road in Santiago, taxi cabs, maybe not in as good a condition. Classic cars lined up at the airport, ready to be taxi services. We got to actually squeeze into and ride in one evening, tight fit. They spend a lot of time on the exterior of the car, fixing up the paint, making sure it looks aesthetically good. These cars have a lot of Bondo on them and covering up rust spots and other problems. They have diesel engines. You have to buy the engines from the Cuban government. They all run on diesel. The insides vary widely. Many are held together with duct tape and other things on the insides. So, it's not like a fully restored as is 1950s classic car, but it's fun nonetheless, and they do look nice. This was our main mode of transportation. This Toyota car, it had a motor, and it ran, and it got us where we needed to be. Not for long distance driving, though. You see lots of reminders of the Soviet Union and its presence in Cuba. Quite a few 1970s, 19 era Soviet made cars. That's what these are. And you see a lot of future hopes, people with cars up on blocks. This was a truck with no engine, with hopes of gaining an engine someday and hopes of making it run. So a lot of hopes up on blocks. But there's other ways to get around. You do see bicycles, not as much as in Asia, but you do see some. You see quite a few horses and wagons, people wanting to pay to be taken someplace, and for hauling of goods. You can see this horse over to the far left. You can see all of its ribs are showing. So you do see a lot of that. And some wagons are nicer than others. Some with covers, some designed more for people and taxing, some designed more for goods. But even in Santiago and certainly in El Caney, you have a lot of this. In the more rural areas, maybe not horses, but you do see ox and other beasts of burden and other styles of wagon transporting products and carrying things. This is one of the more unique vehicles I saw while I was there. This is a water truck. In El Caney, most of the city has no indoor plumbing or water lines for sanitary drinking water. Your water is delivered to you every 40 days. You take every pot and everything you have in your home, you fill it with water, and that's your drinking water supply for 40 days, and that's what this is. That's how your water is delivered to you. In transportation, there are some construction vehicles, of course, around. This is a dump truck. You do see those on sites, but let's be honest, people in Cuba do a lot of walking, especially in El Caney. This is one of the main streets there in the neighborhood of El Caney. And we did lots of walking from house to house, from meeting to meeting, location to location, lots of walking. There are some bus stops that you'll see along the main roads. Bus, maybe not the right word, but people carriers, transports. And that's what these people are waiting on here at one of the stops. This is more the type of people transports. This was a really nice one that carried us around for a few days. And you have to hire them and hope they show up in some cases. If they get a better gig somewhere, they may not show up. We learned that, but this is a really nice one. This was for a larger group. We had one day where we actually went to a park and did a larger outdoor session with some of the people we were working with. This probably carried about 40 of us. And you have people sitting down and standing up. It's tight, but that's what it's for, is moving large groups of people. The food, if you've had Caribbean food, that's kind of like what Cuban food is. But frankly, what dictates a lot of Cuban food is what's available and what they can find. Of course, we couldn't drink the water, and they didn't want to cook with the water for us either. So our sponsors were very careful about what they gave us, and they would take our money each day and go out to the market and the vendors. And our menu that day consisted of what they could find from vendors and what they could prepare for us. A lot of fruit. El Caney is the mango capital of Cuba. We had mango juice and guave and lots of things like that. Rice and beans and some chicken along the way, but it was really dictated based on what they could find for us. But we did have one special day where they dug a pit and roasted some food, plantains, of course, a big pig that was roasted, and that was really special for everybody involved, and lentils. When they have it available, then it's some really unique flavoring. It's sure not Mexican. It's more Caribbean with some Spanish influences maybe, but it was good. I sure didn't lose any weight. They being in Cuba while I was there. They treated us really, really well. Now, the grocery store in Santiago, we had to go a couple times ourselves. This was near where we were staying. It's certainly not a super center type of setting, but um, this is the dry goods section of the supermarket. It's all behind a counter. You ask the clerk to get something for you, tell them what you want to get it, and they keep it and ring it up for you. But this is the entire dry goods section. This is the entire meat department at the grocery store, and the entire pasta, oils, canned goods, and bread section at the Santiago grocery store. So that's certainly different, cultural difference for us. You know, the architecture, sometimes people think of that when they travel and how it looks different. You see the Caribbean influence, especially in Santiago. This is a well-to-do home. And Santiago, where these well-to-do homes are, this is what it looked like pre-revolution. After the revolution, these were seized by the government. Some have been turned into libraries, clinics, museums, things like that. Some set empty or maintained on the outside. Some are used as vacation homes for the wealthy, things of that nature. But they were seized and put to other uses. You do see a few, what I would call a nicer home that are inhabited. Lots of fences and lots of security. And that is a problem, both Santiago and certainly in areas of El Caney. A lot of flat tops with concrete so they can build on if they need to, or have a upper area to set, and certainly lots of laundry gets hung out. One of the evenings we actually went to a church service at a person's home. This was in a split level house. The one family lived on the lower level, another family lived on the top level, and you climbed a ladder. It was not steps, it was a metal ladder, not leaning, straight up ladder to get to the second floor residence. This is kind of their patio family room area that we met in. So pretty unique experience. El Caney had a hurricane hit them 5 or 6 years ago. A lot of the homes were damaged, the roofs impacted, and a lot of them still haven't been repaired. They kind of live with the slats and the leaks. Materials are hard to come by. But this is the older part of El Caney. One of the buildings that we were meeting in, this was the look out the window onto some of those homes. So you can see why I mean portions of this are pretty third world type of situation. More homes with the laundry out. This is some of the government owned apartment complexes. The Soviets did a lot of construction projects in the bigger cities of Cuba in the 1970s, 80s. So you do see buildings that look like they have a Eastern European aspect to them, concrete and square and solid. This was a Soviet-built apartment complex. The place where we stayed was one of those seized homes that's been turned into rental properties, probably run by the military. It's not particularly lavish on the inside, but it'll do. I mean, we all had our own rooms. We were all able to sleep, had some air conditioning, running water. So, I mean, this was really, pretty nice accommodations there in Santiago. The interesting thing is right across the road from us, with a permanent security guard around it, is the Bacardi home. Bacardi rum, that is Santiago, Cuba. Well, the Bacardis fled Cuba during the revolution, and this is in the area where all the homes were seized by the government, and so was the Bacardi home. This is kind of like the summer vacation home for the Castros. Fidel was dead at this point, but his brother was there one of the evenings that we were in Santiago. This is where they stay. It's got a pool and so forth. This is the school. There, the students lined up in their uniforms outside saying the pledge before the school day started. You see these scattered about. This one was located near our hotel. It's a free medical clinic. It was closed every one of the 10 days that we were there. And actually our host said he didn't know if he'd ever seen it open. So They do have free medical care if you can find a place that's open. And the Grand Cathedral there in Santiago on the square, certainly the Spanish influence in the architecture, a beautiful building. We do not have worship services there, but it's a historical masterpiece that remains standing. The city district in Santiago provides some other color and a feel for the markets and how people dress and what that looks like. Santiago was founded in 1515. And so in 2015, they celebrated their 500th anniversary. The government certainly restored and repainted buildings or only fixed up the shopping area. So lots of bright colors, and certainly you see the Caribbean influence throughout. Nearly any time you see a park or an area cleaned up like that, it's historical in nature and generally something to do with the Revolution. It certainly adds color and things to the market and the whole district. Again, you can see some European influence on some of these older buildings, but interesting marketplaces, a lot of interesting Caribbean architecture, and something you often see, groups of men out playing chess. That is a favorite pastime in Cuba. You see some checkers and backgammon, but you see a lot of chess. This is just a storefront vendor, especially in Santiago. You have mom and pop shops where they're selling ice cream or Cuban sandwiches in this instance. A little bit of business going on. We did have a day to visit a historical site, San Juan Hill, the charge of the Light Brigade, Spanish-American War. This is it. Lots of monuments and things set aside there commemorating the area. Some beautiful vistas looking down over Santiago. The Spanish-American Army, or the American Army, actually attacked and had a battle in El Caney first. They were not able to take the town. It was defended by 500 residents, although outnumbered 10-1. So they kind of skirted around El Caney and came to Santiago and the battle at San Juan Hill. But interesting place to visit. I love history and enjoyed getting to see this. And again, beautiful landscape. Cuba has more mountains than I realized. So lots of beautiful vistas and certainly lush vegetation. That's what I mean. It's a beautiful island. It's a beautiful area to visit. Not too many Americans have had that opportunity, and I'm sure thankful that I did. Santiago is a port city. This is one of the ports there, actually the sort of the cove port and then the outlet into the Caribbean Ocean. Another shot. That's the outlet into the Caribbean. You can see a building there on the top of that cliff. That's actually a 17th century Spanish fortress that was built to protect the outlet, and that's further view back. So beautiful vistas. You can see very much a Caribbean feel. And some people refer to Cuba as the land that time forgot. I guess in some ways that is certainly true. The flora, lots of flowers, cactus, blooming plants throughout. Any homes that we were at, if they had extra land around the home, they used it to plant things that could produce food. Here's a plantain tree and an avocado tree, both in the yard of our host. Some palm trees and other beautiful flowers. So, but lots of color, lots of vegetation. So despite, architecture, history, and all these things that make Cuba interesting and intriguing, for us, it was the people that we fell in love with. I'm being somewhat selective in what photos I share here. Some of the youth, but the Cuban people are a rainbow of colors. There's French influences, Spanish influences, Indian influences, even American influences. Some Confederates at the end of the Civil War that refused to surrender went to Havana what they call Afro-Cuban influences, a lot of that. You see that throughout, and they're a rainbow of people. And our host, Elena and Samuel and their family. Well, my wife and daughter will both tell you that one of their favorite things about Cuba is some of the children, and that Cubans make beautiful babies. Boy, those big dark eyes, we really enjoyed, my daughter especially enjoyed getting to take care of and interact with some of those children. 3 different evenings, I had a class of all men, and it's just a snapshot of some of those groups in this particular class. So my wife, 3 evenings, taught a marriage conference to the women. You can see their smiling faces there. And then next to the last night we were there, we actually had a marriage renewal service, which for my wife and I, it was just a little bit before our 25th wedding anniversary. So that was a special time for us to do a marriage renewal, and certainly special to her for all the trips and the people connections she's made in Cuba. We hope to return there someday. You know, travel's going to have to reopen and some things will need to change, but we hope to have that opportunity someday in the future. But even amid all the beauty and the, just unique opportunities and the people that we got to fall in love with, you have these reminders that it is a communist nation. The revolution is still going on. You have the billboards around, you have some military reminders, soldiers and guns at the airport and elsewhere. And then you have opportunities to visit with people like this gentleman. He was imprisoned for a number of years, 2 different times, for sharing the gospel and sharing his faith in Cuba. And they're all smiles, they have great kids, they're a wonderful family, but those reminders of that type of thing, reminders that you're not in the United States anymore, can be found all around you. So we love the people of Cuba. We loved having the opportunity to go there and visit, and I appreciate getting to have the opportunity to share about the experience. Again, David Burton with University of Missouri Extension in Greene County. From my family to yours, thank you.